Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music. I've said the words tritone substitution 100 times this past year, so today I want to talk about what it is. So what's a tritone? Well, a tritone is an interval, like a second, third, fourth, or fifth. It has a specific number of half steps. Here's a C. And if I go up 3 whole steps, I'll get to F sharp. The interval between C and F sharp is a tritone. It has some unique qualities. For instance, it's exactly halfway between the octave. Can you see how beautifully symmetrical that looks? In any major scale, there's one tritone. There's one place where you can pick 2 notes that make a tritone. Here's the C major scale. And in that scale, the 2 notes that make a tritone are B and F. B and F. As it happens, those 2 notes are the 3rd and 7th of the G chord. And what that means for us in harmony is the 7th chord built on the 5th step of the scale has a tritone in it. It's the only 7th chord in the scale that has a tritone in it. Listen to it. There's the tritone. That tritone is a dissonant interval. You've probably noticed it just doesn't sound great. It wants to resolve. It resolves inwards or outwards. Keep that in mind. Now, those 2 notes, in this case, the B and the F in G7, remember, split the octave exactly in half, right? Those 2 notes, F and B, are the 3rd and 7th of another chord. They're the 3rd and the 7th of D flat 7. Those same 2 notes that were the 7th and 3rd of G7 are the 7th and 3rd of D flat 7. And let's notice this, G and D flat are a tritone apart. This is just all down to an accident of the symmetries of tritones, how the octave gets split exactly in half, and how the chords are built. What that means for us is that the 3rd and the 7th of G7 and its important resolution can be substituted by the 7th and 3rd of D flat 7. In other words, G7 may be substituted by D flat 7, and that's exactly how we use it. I'll play you a couple of examples. A very typical 2-5-1 progression in jazz. D minor 7, G7, C. Let's substitute D flat 7 for the G7. Here we go. D minor 7, D flat 7, C. Solid sound, right? Tritone substitution. G7 and D flat 7 can substitute for each other. And it's because the 2 important notes in each chord are the same notes. You can think of it as just a version of G7 to play D flat 7. It's a version of G7. It has a flat 5 and a flat 9. You know, it's altered. It's a good way to imagine it. Well, how does that work in a more extended chord cycle? Let's look. Let's say we have, one of the most sort of common chord progressions we have in jazz, a functional harmony, is 3, 6, 2, 5, right? So a couple of dominant chords in there. E minor 7, A7, D minor 7, G7. Well, let's replace those two dominant chords. E minor 7, tritone substitution for A7 is E flat 7, D minor 7, D flat 7 to C. We'll make it sound prettier. Here we go. Did you notice how the roots moved? I love that effect. Nice chromatic motion going down. Well, we can extend that idea going around the circle of fifths. Because the circle of fifths tends to, just have root motion in fifths, and we know that we can substitute chords, that means that any dominant chord may be followed by the dominant chord just below it, and it'll sound like a circle of fifths progression. You follow me? Any dominant chord moves technically down a fifth, right? It wants to resolve. But because of the way we know things work now, I know that G7 is the 5 of C, whose tritone substitution is F sharp 7, and F sharp 7 is the 5 of B, whose tritone substitution is F7. Did I say F or F sharp before? So I went G7, F sharp 7, F7, E7. You hear what's happening? It sort of makes sense. And I just wound up on C major. Well, that was a nice, solid, go around the circle of fifths kind of thing. And yet what we got out of it was, you can see it on the screen, a sort of a descending set of dominant chords. It's pretty powerful. Look at the sevenths as they move. 3rd and 7th of G7, 3rd and 7th of F sharp 7, 3rd and 7th of F7, 3rd and 7th of E7. You get it, right? And then I'm going to resolve to C. Tritones moving down in half steps. Well, that's what a tritone substitution is. It's leveraging something that's really true and super useful about functional harmony, which is that the 3rd and 7th of any dominant chord is shared by the dominant chord a tritone away. And that means we can substitute those chords freely. We'll hear some alterations. It'll sound spicy, but it's still effective. Well, I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe. Hit the bell. You'll know when I post my next video. Meanwhile, I'll see you next time.